value-based contracting between payers and pharmaceutical companies is at this point very limited. I was just involved in a conference for 3 days in New York City last week, and the examples were really very few and far between. We've done some work in the CAR-T area. We have done some work with a major pharmaceutical company as it relates to biosimilars in particular in cancer care. So that would be in the context of sort of a biosimilar first strategy. There are, to my way of thinking, not only my own organization, but others, a very small number are really a paucity. And there are a lot of reasons for that, which would go well beyond the length of this interview as to why those have not really come to fruition over the past 10, 15 years. The price paid does not hinge on outcomes. So the price paid is what the manufacturer sets and then is negotiated around discounts and rebates and market share agreements. The price paid largely does not hinge on outcomes. Granted, there have to be outcomes of both safety, perhaps first and foremost, and effectiveness, or actually efficacy, which is what we get in clinical trials. Effectiveness comes after that in real world evidence. So contracts are not based on outcomes in large measure, other than the basic outcomes or construct that's established by the FDA for approving a new molecular entity or a follow-on drug, something like that. So I would say I disagree with your presumption that contracts between pharmaceutical manufacturers and health plans are based on outcomes. They're not. They're based on FDA approval and then what cascades from there. Comparative, perhaps some aspects of comparative effectiveness. If the price is significantly higher than other drugs in that category, that may well disadvantage that product. If the product is, again, a new molecular entity that really has no competitors, then typically they're included on formulary with prior authorization and perhaps higher patient out-of-pocket cost. Our value-based contracts are replete, but they are with health systems, with independent medical groups, with primary care physicians, with what we call aggregators, which are groups of cohesions of primary care practices. So as far as it relates to the life sciences or biopharma, we really have a paucity of examples that are related to a value-based contract in the biopharma space. One of my friends and former secretary of the VA, Dr. Shulkin, talked about at least 20% being a minimum for relationships between payers and clinical organizations. So this is outside of pharma. So I would endorse Dr. Shulkin, Dr. Sherman's comments about something 20% or more being at stake or at risk to make it meaningful.